Okay, we are officially live, or should be any moment here. We are officially live. Yep. All right, confirmation received. I'll make a quick social media announcement. And we'll get going here. Blue sky, and just get Mastodon real quick here. And we'll get going. Oops. Okay. Got all the updates, notifications set up here. Get back into Pigments here. So today we are going to be working on some percussion sounds. If there's anything that y'all want to discuss in terms of that, or really in terms of anything, synth news from the week, or I'm going to try and do this morning one as like a weekly thing, and I might include like a synth news update. I don't know how serious it'll be, maybe just kind of casually discussing it while we play around with whatever software, programming, sound design stuff we're working on that day. Didn't really see much this week, other than it was 303 day, so hopefully you made some 303 sounds or played with a 303 or something like that, since it's March 3rd, so 303, right? Yeah, very clever. Okay, so today I thought we would work on some percussion sounds. I've been kind of, if you go and look at the my archive of streams, you'll see I've kind of been working my way through some of the popular kinds of sound, types of sounds, percussion and pads, leads, poly key sounds, etc., basses, done all those. So now I've made it to percussion. Oystein, is there any notable updates in this new version of Pigments? Yes, actually. So if this is your first time seeing version 6 of Pigments, the main thing that you're interested in seeing is the modal engine. This is a new engine type that is its physical modeling. It's a physical modeling engine. And I was intending to make some sounds with it anyway, so we can just start with that if you'd like to see it in action. It's got two different kind of core models here. It depends on how you look at it, I guess. It's got a beam and a string model, a resonator, I should say, and then for exciters, it's got this collision exciter, transient, which is a short sample. You can't choose you can choose the samples, but only from this short selection. You can tune it, volume, make it key track or not, or you can use audio input to it as an exciter. So collision, which I assume is probably just noise, it doesn't really say, transient or audio input in order to trigger the resonator on this side, and then on the other side you have this friction, which is like a sustained. My envelopes are very short, so this isn't really going to do much right now, but in a more sustained sound. Actually, just turn the sustain up. It adds some sort of ringing harmonics. And then this also has audio input and noise and granular as options. that is the this engine is of course the main update, and it's super deep. Like obviously, I'm just sort of touching base on it a little bit here. If you are interested and have the patience and time to do it, there is in my live archive, there's the first Pigment 6 video that I did, which I think is like the second or third stream that I did. It should be labeled Pigment 6. Or like Pigment 6 is out, let's look at it, something like that. I went through the stuff pretty relatively in depth, and we'll get into this a little bit when we're programming some sounds. And then the other big updates are in the effects section. They added a vocoder, so that's kind of cool. If you're into vocoders, it can take audio in, FX in, one of the engines, utility engine, filter. So it can take its modulator input from various places, and then here's the carrier settings down here. You can do your vocodery things. So that's probably the second biggest addition. Third biggest addition would be they updated the filters. The current, or what they used to call the multi-mode filter is now called a classic filter. It got a few new modes. It had all these low pass, band pass, and high pass and notch modes, but it was these all pass modes were added. And then this cluster filter was added, and the lo-fi filter was added. And I want to say that the comb filter was updated to some degree, although I don't know exactly what the updates were. And some of those updates also made it into this multi-filter plugin, effects plugin over here as well. On the Sense 2, they also added this analog or digital setting for the resonance, and that's really its feedback compensation. I don't really know why they called it analog or digital. I guess digital filters don't have the feedback compensation as much, and because that's the mode that has no feedback compensation. So in other words, as you turn the resonance up, when it's on analog, you don't lose the bass response, but if it's on digital, like most of the bass will get sucked out if as you turn the resonance up high enough. And then it also added this drive, which is actually probably the coolest thing in the filter model that it added, so you can drive the filters, which is one of my favorite things to do. And then other noteworthy, they added this voice modulator, which is a way to sort of simulate the different responses of different voice chips and older analog synths. So each voice can have a different modulation setting. So, for example, when the fourth voice comes on, you could set it to go slightly out of pitch or to open the filter slightly wider or not as wide. Again, to emulate with some older synths where like they have discrete channels and chips per voice and things like that, and some of them can go out of whack over time, and you can get so again, like every time the fourth voice triggers, it's always a little darker than the first three or the two after it. Say if it was a Juno 6, for example. And they tweaked some of the random modulators. They tweaked the UI a little bit, but that's as far as I can recall, and that made an impression on me. That's the highlights of the updates for version 6. I hope that was helpful. We will come back to this modal engine. I actually kind of wanted to work my way through each engine, make some percussion sounds for each. So we will get to the modal engine, but it'll probably be last, or maybe we can do it second or something like that. I do want to start with something simple, like for example, the analog engine here. And let's see. So when it comes to programming percussive sounds, the main thing is the envelopes. I mean, that's true with a lot of different sounds. It's one of your primary shapers. Your envelope on your amp will give you the sort of amplitude shape of your sound, and on the filter will give you your brightness or timbre shape. And so again, that's true, or that's important, and no matter what kind of synth sound you're making, But when you're making percussion sounds, it's super key important to um, the envelopes are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So a thing to consider with percussion sounds is that because they're so short, obviously you don't have a lot of chances for subtle modulations and things like that. Anything that comes in, it's got to come in pretty fast and do what it's going to do, because as you can see, we just don't have much. There's not much to the sound when you come right down to it. The drive, as you can see here, we're adding some nice extra harmonics. Okay, so we're going to start here with sort of the most simple percussion sound you can make. You can use this to make kick drums or toms or really just about anything. Basically for this, we just need 2 envelopes, sine wave, and yeah, I mean, that's basically it. We're going to take the second envelope and use it to, so it's 0 attack, and then decay pretty short. It's probably actually not quite long enough, something like that. And we're going to apply that to the tuning. And you can see that sort of gives it a click, gives it some attack as the pitch, starts off high. So this simulates when you hit a drum. Different envelope types. So there's actually the envelopes on this. There's really only 2 types. There's an ADR and an ADSR, which I guess we can just use the ADR because we're not using the sustain step. And you can also, the other thing you can do is tie the release to the decay with this key here. Generally, I prefer to have independent control of release and decay, even in percussion sounds. So one of the things in percussion sounds that you have is, like, if you hit a real drum and leave your hand on the membrane, usually it will essentially mute the drum. Whereas if you just smack it, it'll resonate more because your hand is not muting the drum. And you can simulate that on with the synthesizer by having a longer decay than you do, or I'm sorry, a longer release than you do decay. And then when you just really, you get those quick percussive ones, or if you hold it, you can mute it a little bit, and we can make it even. So I might have to make the decay even a little longer, because it's actually pretty hard to get your finger up off the thing after, it's 0 millisecond attack, so it starts into the decay pretty quick. But yeah, the envelopes on this are not super fancy. If you want fancy envelopes, you can use the function generator, which can act as a multi-stage, multi-level envelope. So right now it's in a loop mode, but yeah, so put it in envelope mode, and you can see it proceeds there and then moves through. This would be the sustain stage here. It's obviously not doing anything, but you can at least see. So this is what you use for your fancy envelopes, or anytime you need a modulation shape that isn't a basic envelope, LFO, or random, then the functions are where you go. And these are super complex. You can really do a lot of fancy modulation with these. You can loop different segments. Let's see, for example, envelope loop. Here, this is the loop points. So it just loops there, and then when you release, it moves to the rest of it. And you can move those loop points around, stuff like that too. So way. So make this the loop point, for example. Hey, now it just loops through those points and then goes to the release. So yeah, so this is your fancy envelope, if you will, is the function generators. And you have 3 of those. They're all independent, 1, 2, and 3. They can all do their own thing. They all have the same capabilities. Same with envelope 1, 2, and 3. All have their same capabilities. They're all totally independent. We will probably, again, with the for Pigments today, we'll just stick with the basic envelopes. I doubt for percussion sounds we're going to need anything fancy like the function generators offer. So as you can see already, we have a pretty good drum sound already, kick drum sound, just by sine wave, a little bit of drive in the filter. Really, that just gives it a little, it gives a few extra harmonics, a little more presence. 2 envelopes, one for the main body of the sound, and one for the. So when I put a ridiculous delay, you can hear what it's as it falls back to its default pitch. But yeah, like anywhere from 10, 12, 20 milliseconds for that decay on the pitch. And obviously, your mileage will vary based on what you think sounds good and you like. Actually, I think I want to. So I'm setting the decay on this one to the same regardless. Yeah, so when you make your own, excuse me, what's the point of making your own drum sounds? I'm sure at least some of you are thinking. How would a noise modulator sound here? Sure, what would you like to modulate with the noise? And we could use, so we have actual noise that we can use, or here, talking about here, maybe that. So we can use the FM or the noise source. It's pretty gritty. So that's using white noise as which we've selected here, white noise. We can also try blue. Definitely some different effects there. So white gives it kind of a gritty lo-fi effect. Blue does almost nothing. And red is kind of warbly. Now we're getting almost into like a snare sound. And of course, another thing we can do is envelope the noise so that the modulation on it, so that it, again, made kind of a box drum here, it seems like. And we can play with the filter. I guess we're using the drive on the filter. Let's try something. No, let's just stick with this actually for now. We'll play with some different filters on some other ones. Okay, so let's add a little velocity modulation. We'll also add a little bit. Yeah, that seems good. So what I'm doing here, this is a side chain, but this allows the velocity to control how much of this envelope affects the FM on here. So in other words, light velocity, not only is it quieter over here, but also doesn't trigger this envelope as much. And as it gets harder, you get more of that boxy lo-fi sound. I think we can also add a little bit of velocity sensitivity to the drive, so we can add just a little bit of extra. A little bit of extra grit as the hard hits. Let's see, so in effects, oh, these are both, let's turn both of these off. Oh, that's interesting. So I didn't realize it, but we had effects going here because I was screwing around before. Oh, this is why we got to make sure and like pay attention to everything you got going on. Well, it doesn't sound bad. It just sounds a little different than it did before with all that other crap going on. Let's just see if we can adjust the, there we go. Yeah, right. And I think I will actually take this down a little bit. So, yeah. So yeah, one of the things I think I started to mention this and then I got a little distracted. When you are doing your modulation, especially like the, not in terms of LFO's automation modulation, but your modulation from things like Aftertouch, da 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 da, you know, expression pedal here, like MIDI controllers, whatever. You have to think of things. You usually have to think of things in terms of on or off, or like Aftertouch, you can use subtly depending on what you're using to. What you're using to, you know, what kind of controller keyboard or whatever. Like if you're using some pads, sometimes you can use Aftertouch to add just a little bit of something at the top. So basically as an extension of your velocity, like if you hit the pad hard enough, you're going to trigger the Aftertouch setting. Yeah, we can try that. Sure, we can try the lo-fi filter on, we'll put it in filter 2 here. It will probably crunch it up pretty good depending on how far. Get some nice metallic aliasing tones there. So you can add quite a bit of grit. And almost a metallic quality with this lo-fi filter here. And the jitter adds additional noise and randomness. I think it's supposed to represent, like, I don't know, inaccuracy of clock noise and the digitization process or something like that, you know, I don't know. Definitely adds a lot more character. I think I'm actually, let's see if we can get, maybe we can do something interesting with the envelope on this. Or the other way around. think I got it figured out. Okay. And that's envelope 2, yep. So we'll sidechain this by velocity as well. And this will give us, again, some sort of like variations. So we've ended up with kind of a nice lo-fi trash can percussion. Let's see if we can see if this is interesting in any way, shape, or form. That. I'm just messing with trying to get some weird modulation in here, see if it's interesting in any way, shape, or form. No, not really. Okay, let's just go to none. Guess we get a keyboard on there. So, okay, all right. So another thing you can do is, maybe we'll save that for a little later. Oh, actually, what if we... All right. We'll actually take the mod wheel and put some unison on the mod wheel. So maybe not that. Just looking for something interesting to basically give it a like a toggle, almost like you can toggle on an effect or something on or off here. Actually, let's add some distortion. This is very interesting. There we go. Except I think it just sounds better on all the time, so now I don't want to put it on the mod wheel. Could I modulate the decay slightly with... Yeah, we could do that. That would definitely give it like a make this free running. Make it like a almost like a random. So you just get, oops, that's not what I want to do. Beep. So you just get like, this one's a little longer than that one. So you can see it's starting to go up. So now it's getting longer again. Might have put a little too much on there. We could also make it positive only, and then it won't shorten our decay. We can do a little more extreme because it'll only get longer. That's too long. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Yep, so that gives us a little variation based on where the LFO is. Compressor here. That's really crazy there. Ratio. Maybe just less output gain. So I'm trying to capture this quality of this weird flanger. Without it breaking. Got to. This needs to come down a little bit. The very longest ones are just too long. Which I think is where we're at, yeah. That's maybe alright. Let's get away with like a 5-to-1 ratio. Okay, so take the mod wheel. So by opening and closing the mod wheel, you can get some different sound. So we've made kind of a trashy, lo-fi tub drum. this as trash tub. That's drums, percussion. That's variation via flange effects. Okay. You know what I did not do on that? I did not assign any of its any of this. It's dirty for sure. It's kind of hard and harsh. Pretty punchy. You could definitely use this bad boy in industrial, techno, lo-fi, experimental, distorted. And there's a little FM going on. There's noise. Yep. Okay. That's good. That's good. Save that. Close this. Let's try a new preset. Synth engine, and I can go ahead and try the modal engine now. I'll switch it to beam because I think that one more. This is like your bell struck surface rather than vibrating string variation. Yeah, so one of the things about making percussion sounds that's great is you don't actually always need to spend a huge amount of time on it. Although in this case I have spent a huge amount of time on it, in part because we were discussing features of Pigments and taking suggestions and stuff like that, but you can frequently come up with percussion sounds really quickly. Let's see, warping this. So this warp oops, that's interesting. Turn that off. Very quiet, has almost a water drop kind of sound on it. Can I turn it up? Trying these different shapers, seeing what kind of effect they might have. That one has a bit of an effect. Doesn't sound like glass. Oh, that's interesting. Let me get that. Random on shape. Sure, we could try that. Let's do like a sample on hold random, so we just get a different value. that. Actually, this shouldn't matter. Oops. On shape here. So let's turn it down to about this. Actually, we'll put it in the middle here, and then, because this is bidirectional, we can always try it the other way if we don't like the negative ones too much. Okay, it's interesting. Do we need more? Yeah, I think I maybe just need less of this. I don't like it to be quite so pitched sounding. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if we can make this. I want to make it harder, more percussive. Made a xylophone. Not a bad kind of hard bass sound almost. We want so once again, I'm just adding the pitch bend at the beginning that you expect to hear. When you hit something, you can make it more. And as you can see, it's so short that it doesn't really sound like a pitch bend. It just adds kind of a click. Emphasizes the attack. Because your ears hear that every time you hit a drum. You pitch it up, and it slowly, well, not that slowly, it decays. So you say, that's cool, but I was not looking when you said it, so I'm not sure exactly what you were liking, but I hope it's the sound overall. You can type in the thing if it was something that I undid, and maybe I can redo it for you. Because I'm making these as much as for you all as I'm making them for me. Okay, so I wonder if yeah, envelope 3. So that's kind of fun, and we can sidechain that by velocity, so we'll get some nice variations. Just trying to tweak these envelopes. So if you are wondering like how you would use any of these, there's actually lots of different ways you can do it. Obviously, one way is to just run an incident of Pigments inside of your DAW that is playing these sounds. That's obviously the most obvious way, easiest way. But another thing you can do is sample all this, like even as you're making the sounds, and then cut them up as samples, and then use those in your sampling drum machine or your drum rack or whatever in Ableton. You can obviously further process them there too, add different effects. And I usually do a combination of both. I will sometimes use an actual synth in my DAW that is playing the sound in real time. And then you can do all the automation stuff like that. But you can also sample it and run it through. That's kind of interesting, actually. Let's use the mod wheel to close that. That's cool. Yeah, so you can kind of have a variety of different ones. Most of my favorite drum synth sounds that I've made, I've used both ways, is what I'm trying to spit at. Can I modulate cutoff resonance with an envelope? I could, but right now we're actually not using any resonance. There's like no... might be able to... I mean, if you mean resonance in the resonator here somewhere... Hi, Patricia. I don't know. Right now, Arturia is running some kind of sale on individual instruments. I don't know if it applies to Pigments or not, but you definitely, I recommend it. I don't get paid by Arturia, by the way, so my shilling is purely because I myself like it. Strong supporter of the Arturia Pigments. I guess I could modulate this with an envelope backwards so that it cuts off and gets super resonant like that. And we can do both of these. That's actually kind of like this. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Maybe it's a little too much though. feel pretty good about this. We can also actually modulate this by velocity. So it gets a little less if you don't hit it quite as hard. Volume up on the pink. Oh, you want to actually hear the pink noise? So yeah, this is adding a secondary like friction, so it's basically like something rubbing over the surface in theory. I'll tell you what, let's put that on a macro. Whoop. And we'll call that noise FX. And now you can add a little hint of it. It's almost like a delay. You can add it with the macro knob. This is almost like a xylophone or metallophone of some sort. Definitely more like a percussive instrument than like actual percussion. But again, that's kind of, going back to what I was saying. There's obviously nothing stopping you from sampling like that. That just sounds like a drum. You could maybe, sample some of the lower ranges into a drum rack and use those as drums while still having this as sort of a pitched metallophone kind of sound. Save preset as synthesized. We'll put that as keys, percussive keys. Metallophone-style sound also works as... My spacebar is dying. Also works as percussion. Okay. IDM, industrial, rock, techno. Can you tell that I kind of picked these, I won't say at random, but I don't put a huge amount of thought into what I select for the genres. They're soft, they're a little deep. Vaguely acoustic sounding. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So we have used analog and we have used modal. Probably wavetables next, although sample obviously. Maybe we should do something with the harmonic engine. Delay effects. Let's put some delay effects on this one, maybe? 5 partials. Oh, my nose is starting to run here. Excuse me. Didn't even notice that. Sorry about that. You should be louder. Envelope 2. Okay, and then envelope 2 here. So this is the FM. So you can see how much that adds to the sound right there. Crazy, honestly. And that adds just a little bit of character to the Okay, so there, that's something interesting. Let's use the random on this. So it sort of gives us more or less hollow sounds. Almost sounds like we're hitting a modulator. Could be fun. Modulator. Oh yeah, I mean we are using this here. We could also try like triangle wave to get a slightly more complex signal. It's not that different. That's definitely a little different. Get some different effects. Actually, I'm gonna do like it with the triangle wave. And you can also turn that up so you can hear it, but I don't think that adds much to the sound. All right, so let's talk. Like I said, you can do these fast, so let's try and do this one fast. Modulator could be fun. Okay, so if you have any more suggestions for this one, you should make them fast. I know you said delay effects on the last one. We're thinking like a really short delay, like a car plus. That almost sounds like a gyro or something, like you're scraping something across the top. I don't know. Not really feeling that. You know what we need is, maybe, how about a big crusher? Oh, 12-bit crunch on there. And that would make that 100% wet. That's a little bit of noise. What about a multi-band compressor? And then a regular compressor. Just on this medium. Okay. And I'm going to save this one. Again, just kind of showing that you can come up with some of this stuff pretty quick if you want to. Yeah, it's with percussion, it is frequently more about making a bunch of different interesting sounds. Rather than trying, spending tons and tons of time on each one. But, your mileage might vary there, obviously. This one's also a little bit lo-fi, which I like. It's cool. Lo-fi. Who doesn't love it? It's where we live these days. It's a little noisy. It's got some FM elements to it. Deep, dirty, dark. Yeah. Okay. I think we have time for at least one more. I might have to bounce here relatively quickly. Let's use the wavetable engine on this one. Not so much for the wavetables, although there's lots of cool wavetables and you can do a lot of cool things with them. But so we get access to all of this stuff down here. And it might be fun to see if we can ping a filter here. Just turn that all the way down. Why is this? Turn this on. Boink. I think, if I remember correctly, you can ping some of these filters, and that's what I am trying to do here. Envelope 2. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a classic technique pinging a filter where you turn the cutoff for the filter relatively low. We're going to use keyboard tracking here too, so it'll track the keyboard. And then you turn the resonance up really high, and then you hit the filter with a real short blast of noise. This might even be too long here. It don't take much. And again, and here, I'll take the envelope. So we're doing the same thing, here that we were doing on the, oscillator in previous examples, where we are using this real plucky short little envelope to raise the pitch up. Here our pitch is coming from the filter and not from the waveform, because the only thing we're putting into this filter right now is just a real short little burst of noise. And so the filter is doing all the work here. You can see none of this has any effect because this isn't going through the thing. And now it is. But still the vast majority. Let's see, we get a little variety here. Definitely want to make this. We should probably mediate this with velocity as well. Get like and again, like you can see, this just super fast. That's actually kind of cool too. Let's do that. And we will also sidechain that by velocity. Let's turn this decay down a little bit and this release down a little bit, and then we will add just a touch to those based on velocity. This way you get some pretty decent sounds. Maybe slap this multi-band compressor on here. Then we also also probably need to put the regular compressor on. There we go. All right. Call this one MS20 Drum. Because it's kind of the MS20 filter is a classic one to ping. So if you knew that and you see this MS20 Drum, you probably have a pretty good idea of what to expect from this sound. See, like you use that as a percussive synth sound. Use it as actual percussion. Get a lot of mileage out of these kind of sounds. And it's nice when you make your own. Even if you're just using some that someone else has made, it's just nice to do something that's a little, just differentiate your music a little bit from the crowd. You know, it's so easy to just get the same sample packs, you know, the popular sample packs, the popular software, popular, you know, whatever, and use those because you know that those sounds are well liked and you know that it'll go over well. But I think there's really something to be said for using a lot of custom sounds. Bell sound. You know, the more custom sounds used, the more personalized your music is going to be to you. And I mean, it's not the only way, obviously. It's maybe arguably not even the best way to add originality to your music. But it is an easy way, relatively speaking, to add a distinctive touch that's just you. Certainly, if you're making the percussion yourself, even if it's very like what someone else is doing, I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're like hearing me dial something in and you go, oh, that's nice. But then I don't stop there. I keep going. I add more, or I take it back a couple of steps. Our friend Oystein Holman, who was here. I expect that this was you were. Oh, Patricia, I didn't see. You said it's only 99 right now. I'm not sure how much it normally is. It normally is 200. So if it's 99 right now, yes, it is still on sale. So I know that comment came in a while ago. You might not even still be here, but if someone else is looking, listening in, and was curious if that was the case or what the deal with that was, that is the deal. It's normally 200. It looks like it's on sale right now for 99. So, which is about as cheap as you get it, unless you're already in the Arturia ecosystem. Like if you own a BeatStep Pro or a KeyStep or something like that, you should definitely register it if you haven't already, and you might find that you get a discount on Pigments and a bunch of other software when you do that. Okay. So we haven't messed with the filter too much other than that last one where we ping the filter and we've used the drive a bunch. You can use a filter to help you get your percussion sounds in other ways as well, just by shaping the sound a little bit. Like here, we've got a lot of So, and again, this one almost maybe sounds like a little more like a percussive instrument than it does like a drum, but maybe we can mess that up. Maybe we can mess that up. Yeah. Anyway, if you're making your own percussive sounds, making your own sounds, period, but percussive sounds in particular, I feel like if you're just getting started with sound design, this can be a really good way to, like when I dialed up the drive, on here. Yeah, it definitely wildly changes the timbre. I tell you, let's use an envelope on this. Let's use this envelope here. That's nice because it sort of warps that sharp oops, that's not what I wanted, twang that I get from the ring modulation. It tames that a little bit. And maybe make this also take the filter down just a little bit. Wonder if we should also make this go on here. And we can mediate that by velocity. Yeah, so anyway, I know I'm jumping around here a little bit. It's the way my brain works. If you're just getting started with sound design, percussion can be a really good thing to start tackling because there are sort of fewer things to worry about. Like you noticed I didn't really mess too much with LFOs with a lot of these. And that's because a lot of times what an LFO is doing is too slow rather, to really affect some of these percussion sounds because the sound's over before let's make this free running. So that's the other thing too with the LFOs. If you don't have them free running, they're essentially just a little envelope. Like there you saw it was just like a slope envelope, and here you get something different because there's no telling a cycle, it's going to be. But yeah, but when you're doing these yourself, you can stop wherever you like. You can add whatever you like. You can change whatever you like. And with relatively few settings and few things to worry about, you can come up with some, pretty interesting sounds that are at least somewhat different than. Somewhat different than what you're hearing elsewhere, than what you're finding in sample packs, etc., etc. It just really gives you an easy way to, basses are probably the other things that's super easy to start with, and there's arguably like more. Give a little boost. This gives it sort of there's like a howling element to it. I don't know. It's a percussive, but not quite percussion, I think. That's fine though. I mean, it's still pretty percussive. It's kind of harsh. It's a little metallic. It doesn't say metallic down here. Styles. It's so weird. The styles. Is acid a style? Maybe. Is area style? Atmospheric? I don't know. Characteristics. It's funny that the way they've divided these, I guess, is what I'm saying. I don't know. Let's get enough. Okay. Maybe. So we haven't done one with sample yet. That's what's left. So let's do a quick sample engine one. And obviously samples, you can import your own samples into this. I think that probably goes without saying, but in case it doesn't go without saying, you can. Drum loops. So that's pretty fun. one thing we're going to do here is double this up. Yeah. Double it up with a sine wave so that it has the right, or just has a little more body. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Sorry, my mind is a little, after 2 hours, I'm definitely reaching the end of my brain juice vibes here, so I can be a little incoherent at the end of these. See, get a nice resonance to these. So that's kind of nice. And of course, another thing you could do is take a drum sound that we made earlier in Pigments using one of the other engines. And import it as a sample into Pigments. And go ham. Just keep going, man. Right? So I'm adding velocity as a modulator on all these envelopes. The VCA amp is already done there. And that'll give us some variation when playing this bad boy. Right, so we could also go to velocity and get a little bonus there. Probably actually need to turn these down just a little bit based on what we added, just a little bit. All right. But yeah, if you've been watching this from the beginning, and at least a couple of you have, really, you'll see, you see me make these same envelope shapes over and over again. Very little or no attack, and you can have a little softer attack. As you can see, once it gets up to 30, 40 milliseconds, sounds less like something being hit and starts to sound more like something being scraped or rubbed against, which is also, that's also valid. Okay, and so, and we'll actually, I tell you what, let's, so we put a little bit of 10 milliseconds of attack time on this, which still attack very percussive, but not as sharp and plucky. But we also, if you hit it a little harder, it gets a little sharper. All right, and then for effects, we're going to add a distortion. I like the tape distortion. dry wet on the mod wheel so you can dial up the amount of distortion. I'll put a little more drive on there as well. And maybe we will put this multi-brand. Boost on here. Yeah, it's a little sharpness, like a little focus, it feels like. So this could be used the releases are just a little long. Envelope release, yeah, that's a little long. So this is a kind of a cool, I don't know, it's almost like a almost I wonder if I bet we can actually. Okay, so sorry, thinking to myself here. So I'm adding a little keyboard modulation in the negative because I feel like as this gets higher, still need to be a little shorter. Yeah, okay. Go back to the synth. Velocity on there, keyboard tracking this. Velocity is going to envelope amp attack, decay, release, these attack and release. Side changing filter cutoff. Yeah, okay, cool. A clever name. There we go. Kind of a tom sound. Drums, tom. You could use it for indie dance. You could use it for rock. You can always use it for techno. It is sample based. It's layered. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so we have now made a sound with every one of the engines. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go a new preset. Now made a sound with every one of the engines. Do 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 do. Okay. Right. Laser. Too much decay. If you're trying to make some sounds and you have laser beams, I mean, it's cool if you want to make laser beams. But anyway, it just means you have too much decay on your pitch envelope. That's what you get with laser beams. Okay, so I'm going to try some really wacky modulation on this one. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm just taking all the things we talked about so far and trying to get a little wacky. See if I can do something a little different. To what we've been doing. Same principles, obviously, but just like yeah, just like do a little more, do something a little different. See if we can't. Okay, what we're gonna do here is no, that is not right. This should be. That's also not right. This should be mod wheel. That's what we want. So you can open the mod wheel. To get more. Hey, Swarm. How's it going, man? Today, I'm afraid you've made it just in time. Yes. Yeah, I'm trying some different things. I basically today I just started as soon as I took my kids to school. Took my kids to school. I came home, ate a quick breakfast, and then jumped online. I'm gonna try and do like a or at least one regular weekly stream, and I was kind of thinking that this Wednesday morning one might be it. I mean, I'll try and do more streams than that too, but at least the one morning one is what I'm saying, you know? That's kind of cool, actually. So yes, for sure. Yeah, we can make a quick kick sound too, actually, and they're so easy to do. Just kind of. Wonder if we can get a real nice slow LFO. Give us a little variation on this gain. Just so it's like. Oh, right, we want that free running, otherwise it's just doing the same thing every time. Okay, so maybe we want a little more gain on it. Oops, FO2. Let's try that. That's probably too much. There we go. That's maybe still a little too much. Maybe we just need to go down so that it doesn't peak as high. Yeah. Yeah, and so the other thing you see here is that although drum sounds, percussion sounds can be quite simple, you can also be pretty complex. You can do a lot of weird stuff. That sounds like shit. I mean, it doesn't sound terrible, it just doesn't sound very percussive. Kind of like that. Pick some genres for this. let's just do a real quick kick drum. Considered a request from our good friend Swarm of Insects. Nice distorted overdriven kick. I mean, that's basically it. You can add more overdrive. You can also go to the utility engine, digital drums, crackles, small pops, just tiniest bit of this. Maybe a little more. Maybe that's too short. Gotta find the right noise, apparently. And we can get a little more overdrive on it by adding a little more overdrive to it. Straight overdrive. Excuse me. Put a low pass filter on it. Kind of lose some of our low end with this. So I don't like that. That seems better. We maybe also lose some low in there, but not as bad, question mark. We just need to drop the resonance. There you go, there's a good drive kick for you. Put the velocity at 50%. Let's do just the tiniest bump on velocity from this. Put the I'll just save this as drive kick. Yeah, just to kind of show how quickly you can put something like that together, how easy it is to make a kick drum. I mean, a kick drum is literally just a sine wave with a pitch bend at the beginning and a real snappy envelope. That's all there is to it. So go crazy with all that stuff. And yeah. There we go. All right, so that's probably going to be it for today. I think we made 7 sounds, which is actually probably some kind of a record. Honestly, I would like to speed things up to the point where I can maybe make 8 or 10, even a dozen in a session. Probably requires, I don't know, it requires more practice for me so I can say what I want to say and do what I want to do and not get too distracted. I really appreciate. I think that maybe Oystein, and I no idea if I'm saying your name right. My friend Holman has bailed, but I want to thank them for, and I don't want to assume anything about their gender. That's not a name I'm familiar with, and it's obviously a little dangerous to assume one's gender based on a name anyway. But I would like to thank them for hanging out for nearly the entire time, for making a lot of fantastic suggestions to the point that I feel like they almost co-designed some of these sounds with me. And hopefully they'll come back again sometime. And if you were watching and lurking, or you're watching this after the fact, you should come and join us and co-design some sounds and talk about theory and stuff like that. Yeah, like I said, so let me just real quick go over what we talked about a little bit. You can use just about any sort of synthesizer to make percussive sounds. We made at least one with all of these. You can, really the key when you're making percussive sounds, right here, the envelopes. Nice and short, near instant attack, instant to about 15 to 20, maybe even 25 milliseconds. Tends to sound percussive. Above that, it tends to sound, you get percussion style sounds, but they're more of the scraping, rubbing type sounds rather than things getting hit. Yeah, so using kind of slight variations on these. Pitch envelope's usually a little shorter. It bounces back to its normal shape while it's still resonating. In real life, when you're talking about a drum, you've got a membrane stretched over a resonating body, the drum body. You hit it. When you hit it, you excite the membrane, and it gets stretched tighter because you're hitting it, you're bending it down, and so the pitch of it goes up, but then it very quickly goes back to its original pitch, and that's what we are simulating with this envelope 2 here. And yeah, key is, again, how I like to do it. Decay is usually shorter than release, which is the opposite of any other kind of sound. And that's because if you leave your hand on a drum, it will tend to mute it, versus if you hit it and then get off of it right away, the membrane, the drum will continue to resonate longer. Yeah, so envelopes are your friend. You use an absolute minimal amount of LFOs and more fancy modulators. Sometimes you can use random to add a random element. Velocity is your main source of modulation. You can also use something like the mod wheel to give you variations, open or closed, or even like with something like a hand drum or talking drum, where you might be playing pitched rhythms that are relatively intricate and lots of things going on. If you're opening and closing the mod wheel while you're playing those, you'll not only get some different sounds as it's in different positions at different hits, but also probably you'll capture some of the movement and get some stuff in there. So you can do some really interesting effects with that. But yeah, with LFOs, functions, not as much with those unless you're using them as one shots, almost as like more envelopes. The randoms can be really good for adding, again, just some random variations, because when you're hitting something like a drum, it's pretty hard to consistently hit it in the same way at the same time, and also the way that the physics of it, as you're exciting the drum over and over again, you're not letting it come to a full rest each time before you hit it again most of the time. So the random can simulate that, the fact that the complex wave functions that build up as you smack the shit out of it over and over again. So that's it. And again, the why of why you do this is, like with any sound, to just add a little uniqueness, a little personality to your productions, a little something that's just more uniquely you. Now, obviously, there's you gotta be smart about how much effort you're going to put into those kind of things and recognize your own strengths. I consider myself to be first and foremost probably a synthesist. So the sound design stuff, making new sounds is a big part of my creative process. It's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. It's how I differentiate myself. One of the ways I differentiate myself from my peers. And if you're like a preset guy, that's probably not the case, and you're going to spend your time working out more interesting harmonic structures and doing drum programming and things like that, and that's obviously totally fine. But even in those cases, it can be useful to at least have base knowledge, so you can either crank out a couple of quick, that's what I'm saying is like, okay, so you're not going to sound design from scratch your entire next album, but maybe you can spend an hour, come up with 3 or 4 or 5 different little percussion sounds, sample them, and then maybe spend another hour building a couple drum racks out of them, and now you have some unique to you, even though it's probably not wildly different than any other percussion, but some unique to you percussion that you can dial up and do something kind of original with. This, as always, I will annotate this with the sounds that we designed and anything else interesting that happened during the thing, and it'll be up as a VOD in a couple hours. Actually, be up as a VOD in an hour. It'll be annotated in a couple hours, most likely. And hopefully I will do this again next Wednesday at the same time is what I'm planning. And if you keep an eye, if you follow my account, I also intend to stream at other times as well. I'm just trying to get like a regular thing going. And that's pretty much it for this one. I want to thank everyone that joined. Swarm, I'm glad you made it to the end. It literally would not be the same without you. I don't know if this time is terrible for you or whatever. Maybe we can talk about it a little offline on Mastodon or whatever. But maybe you can join us next week, or if not, then I can find a different time on a different day that works better for you, so you can make sure you're still part of the fun. Thanks to also to Patricia Quartet, who joined us and asked some questions about Pigments. I really appreciate it. You joining. I really appreciate you asking questions and participating in the fun. Yep, that's it for today. I hope you all are having a great Wednesday, and I will hopefully see